I'm Dr. Duke with the New American. Happy to be joined by an old friend today, Alex Newman. Alex, how are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, Duke.
Thanks for having you here. We're always glad to have you here. And we have an interesting topic today. Elections always bring to mind resets, right? And the end of a year always brings to mind resetting the calendar year. So the Great Reset is in the news. Let's talk about that. And let's talk about first, broadly, Alex. Give us your definition. You've done a lot of writing on this for the New American and other outlets. As succinctly as you can, tell us what the Great Reset is.
Well, thank you, Duke. And I don't think you can explain the Great Reset without the maniacal, super exaggerated German accent of Klaus Schwab. And so I'll tell you, the Great Reset means we must change everything. Everything must change. And when you listen to what he's saying, he's serious. They talk about everything must change up to and including your mind, your behavior, the way you think about things. And, when you add that to the mix with the economic component, they want to totally revamp the economy. They want to change the way businesses operate. Instead of pursuing profit, they would pursue these nebulous goals that the elites would establish. They want to change governance. We would move more and more toward global governance and away from the nation-state model. I mean, this is what they're saying. And then you add the fourth industrial revolution component into it, where he's talking about openly, right? We don't have to speculate here. He's talking about we're going to merge individuals with machines. We're going to implant technology inside of you. We're going to put microchips in your brain. I know it sounds ridiculous. It sounds like the stuff of a terrible science fiction movie, and yet this is what the architects of this Great Reset themselves are saying. So that's what's next if they get away with the election steal, if they get away with trying to steal the Senate and all the rest of it. We can expect massive changes. In fact, Klaus Schwab has said that pretty soon we may be talking about, instead of before Christ and Anno Domini, soon we'll talk about before Corona and after Corona.
So for old timers like you and I who've worked at the organizations we work for, the multiple organizations we work for, we know all about the New World Order. So tell our audience at home, is there absolutely any difference? Is there any meaningful difference between what the New World Order was and what the Great Reset is? Or is this just a logical continuation down the road of Agenda 2130?
It's exactly the same thing. The Great Reset is just the newest marketing slogan that these people came up with. And I'm sure they dropped, millions of dollars on focus groups and market research. How do we make this sound catchy and non-threatening? And, I would say the first tip from my perspective would be drop the Klaus Schwab. You couldn't find a creepier guy to be the front man of this. All he needs is the white cat, and just he could pet it while he's telling us about the Great Reset. But it's the New World Order agenda, right? It's the same exact thing they've been peddling for years. They've just got a new and improved excuse. Hey guys, sorry we burned down your economies under the guise of saving you from a very mild virus, coronavirus. And so now we're going to rebuild. There's several other slogans that they brought in here. The Build Back Better, which of course was one of Biden's key slogans. He actually ripped that off straight from the UN. And then you had Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister joke of Canada, say that we're going to build back better, and now we have a great opportunity for a great reset. And that's going to involve incorporating Agenda 2030 into everything. So it's all the same slogans all rolled into one. They know that your average person doesn't have the time or the inclination to keep track of all these stupid Agenda 20 this, Millennium Development Goals, that Great Reset here, Build Back Better. They just think, people will go along with it. It sounds cool, non-threatening. It sounds like everything's going to be great. But what's amazing to me, Duke, is that they are becoming a little more transparent about their objectives. So the World Economic Forum, to give you an example, a concrete example, has been saying for a while now that as part of all this, you will own nothing. Right? You will own nothing. That's the terminology they are using. They've got articles published on their website saying that you're going to own nothing by 2030. They put out a video that by 2030 you will own nothing. And they didn't used to say that, right? They used to call us conspiracy theorists for saying that they were going to try to take away our right to private property. Now they're talking about it like, hey, it's going to be fun. It's going to be cool. It's going to be hip. You can just rent everything from your overlords. And I guess if you don't mind being a slave or livestock, that could be nice. But what's really interesting, Duke, is that they're just telling us now where this is going.
Well, it's not surprising. And what should scare you is the only time they're transparent is when liberty is in the rearview mirror. when a strong resistance is in the rearview mirror. It's only when they're cresting downhill do they feel bold enough to tell you exactly what we are going to do to you. And I love the way that you framed this against the backdrop of a Bond villain. So this is, in some ways, it really is like a post-dystopian James Bond movie we're in. And you already named some, but go ahead, name some of the other Bond villains. Just give us the names of some major players beyond the ones you've already mentioned that we know are going to be involved in pushing us this way. I'll start. How about Pope Francis? I mean, is there a greater fraud at the head of a major world institution than that guy? Here's a guy who is just a rambling, fever swamp Marxist idiot who has somehow that whole when they write the history of the Great Reset, assuming they'll allow people to write history again at actual history once we've reset the button is a whole nother issue. But Francis would be a key player in this, it seems to me. What are some other names you would throw out?
Yeah, Pope Francis is huge. He actually was there when they ushered in Agenda 2030. He gave this kind of speech, and Fox News said, all the world leaders are gathered here to hear Pope Francis endorse this Agenda 2030. And it was true. Just today, actually, we're filming on Wednesday. Just today, the Pope, the Vatican has announced that the Vatican is going to be partnering with, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and all these other, these foundations to pursue something they call inclusive capitalism. Back in 2014, or maybe it was 2013, I wrote an article about the Rothschilds convened this inclusive capitalism summit, and they brought together the head of the IMF at the time, Christine Lagarde. They brought together the British monarchy, super powerful people. They estimated that they brought together about 1/3 of global wealth, if you include like the pension fund managers and stuff. That's a lot of resources. And they said we need to shift away from shareholder capitalism, where companies pursue profit by best satisfying the needs and wants of customers and consumers, toward this stakeholder capitalism, where now companies need to obey the dictates of the central planners, and they need to do environmental and social and Black Lives Matter and all the rest of the garbage. So the Rothschilds are big. Pope Francis is huge. When they unveiled the Great Reset, they had some of the Bond villains come out and actually talk about it. They had the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, and he looks like a Bond villain too. I mean, it's unbelievable. And he's even got the cute little Portuguese accent. And he was all on board. Hey, this Great Reset's going to be awesome. And, when you have the head of the United Abominations joining with your agenda, it's pretty serious, right? These people, as you pointed out, they think that the opposition is in the rearview mirror. Now they can just, a couple years ago, they said we were evil conspiracy kooks extremists for saying that these things were coming. Now we're evil conspiracy kooks for saying that these things are a bad idea. The tone has shifted dramatically. They also brought in the head of the IMF, the Bulgarian communist Kristalina Georgieva. They brought in Prince Charles, and he's been a big part of this for a while now. Prince Charles has his dad, of course, famously told the world that if I could, I'd like to be reincarnated as a virus so I could help get rid of the overpopulation problem. True story. So these are some of them. In addition to the 4 big speakers they had when they unveiled this Great Reset, they had Klaus Schwab, they had Antonio Guterres, they had Kristalina Georgieva, and Prince Charles. They had 9 less important people, shall we say. They had the CEO of MasterCard, who's pushing to have the cashless society. They had the CEO of a company called Chip Safer, which implants implantable technology into your livestock to tell you about their health and their geolocation. It all feeds to a satellite. And of course, we are the future of livestock, right? They already told us we can't eat meat anymore. So eventually we will be the livestock if these maniacs get their way. They had a number of people. They had a Chinese communist there. I think his name was Ma Jun or something like that. He was the head of the Green Finance Committee. He's one of the board members of the People's Bank of China, which is the central bank of communist China. So these are some of the individuals that are coming on board. But I think the important thing, Duke, is that these are all frontmen, right? The real power behind the throne, they don't very often come out and say, hey guys, look at us. We're the ones who are pulling the puppet strings on these puppets. But, if we really want to focus on who those people are, I just put out a book published by Western Islands, close affiliate of the New American, on the deep state. And so you can find out the organizations and individuals who are behind this.
Yeah, and when you say inclusive capitalism, let's be very clear. What that means is capitalism for the ruling elite, this very, very small global oligarchy, and then absolute radical socialism, communism for everybody else on the planet, a very small handful of elites making decisions for billions of people to reduce those billions to hundreds of thousands down the road.
That's what they say. Look at their Georgia Guidestones. They are very clear about their ultimate objective, and one of them is to reduce the population of the planet quite significantly.
Alex, we'll see you again for part 2. Back again with Alex Newman, our international correspondent and good friend and an authority on the deep state and this new fun for all James Bond release that's coming down from monolithic megalithic pictures coming down the road, The Great Reset. You can look for it in a theater and in a thug squad near you. We did a pretty good job, I think, in the last 10 minutes describing what is the game here, what's the end game, who are the major players in this, talking about who the Bond villains, who want globalization, one world government, who want radical depopulation, who want capitalism to the degree that it allows a small oligarch of people to get rich, those who will control the world, who are already in many ways controlling the world, and the rest of us will be reduced to the same level of, let's just call it socialist subsistence, right? And so what we haven't talked about, because maybe there's no answer to this, who's the James Bond in this movie? Who is there? Is there anyone? I mean, for a lot of, I think a lot of the faith that people put in Donald Trump, both here and across the world, even if some of that faith was a little misguided, but the kind of faith people put in a figure like Donald Trump was the faith that there would be somebody out there, that there would be some 007 classified person out there who could pull us back from the brink. And it's undoubtedly true, whatever you think of Donald Trump, that in standing up to the Chinese, he was standing up to globalization, he was standing up for not getting rid of free trade proposals, which would have been nice, but certainly altering them so they weren't so one-sided. Donald Trump was promoting real capitalism and real wealth for real working people in ways that we haven't seen in a long time in this country, which is why he was literally targeted on the global and on the local level of the United States. He had been targeted months before he ever took office. There was going to be no way they were going to let him up off the canvas. He was impeached. He was degraded. You have the full force of the technology companies who are big players in this global coup, who had not just their thumbs on the scale of the election, they leaned their entire weight on the scale of the election. They told us before the election, right? We have the capacity to shift 8 to 10 million votes away from Donald Trump. We've seen technology and how all of this has brought us to the brink here. Seems like, tell me why I'm being negative. Seems like we took our last, freedom and liberty took their last grave punch, last great attempt to foil this. And sounds like in a couple of states and a couple of ballots, a couple of state balloting hijacked, a couple of states going through fraudulent measures now. Seems like that's gone. Where's the Bond, the James Bond in all of this? Is there one?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know that there is one. And, the Bible always says, it says repeatedly, don't put your faith, your trust, your hope in any man. Put it in God. And that's where our faith and our hope and our trust really needs to be. In fact, the motto, right, includes with God's help. And I think the idea that we could defeat these supervillains without God's help is preposterous. And I think that is really the ultimate trump card, not to play on the president's name. God is still sovereign. God is still in charge. And these people have been planning these idiotic schemes for a very long time. In fact, if you go back in the book of Genesis, you see they wanted to build their little tower, and they thought they were going to reach all the way up to heaven and be able to do whatever they wanted. And, of course, that did not come to fruition. And all throughout the Bible, you have these examples where God waits until the very last second to step in when it looks hopeless. Abraham, for example, right? Abraham is about to literally stab his son, and right at the last second, God comes through and provides the sacrifice. You see this over and over again. So, yes, the globalists, deep staters, they want to enslave us. They want to get rid of a lot of us. They absolutely hate us. They hate America. They hate freedom. They hate marriage. They hate family. If they could have, they would have destroyed all these things long, long ago. So I don't know that there is a James Bond type hero who's going to save the day, but God can stop them at any point, and he may do that. God also uses lesser mortals to do important things, and he may still do that. And there are a lot of people, I think, who are just critical in this fight, who are on the front lines of this. Obviously, you would be one of them, Duke, and people like William Jasper. The JBS, of course, has been on the front lines of this fight for over 60 years, and I'm absolutely convinced that the JBS has held back these plans over and over and over again. I mean, they're decades behind schedule. If you look at the timelines they had outlined before, they wanted to overthrow our Constitution by the 200th anniversary, right? On 1776, they wanted to just basically abolish America, abolish our Constitution, and merge us into this new system. So they're way behind schedule. I don't think they're going to be completely successful this time, with or without Donald Trump. I still don't think the election is over, although I know you two won't let us say that anymore, right? The Supreme Court just took up the case of Texas versus all these fraudulent states, and I think a number of conservative states will probably join that lawsuit. So there's still a whole bunch of different things that could happen, and they're also forgetting that America is not like other countries. We have political power that's widely dispersed. I just take my governor as an example, Ron DeSantis. He's not perfect, but he's a very good guy. And so what's going to happen? Just assume a worst case scenario for a moment. And I don't think the worst case scenario will come to pass, but just assume worst case scenario. Biden is in the White House. Democrats control the Senate. Democrats control the House, and they pack the Supreme Court with a bunch of Looney Tune, Marxist, America-hating lunatics. Well, what happens then? Are we all just going to bow down and submit to our new overlords and kiss their boots? I don't think so, right? We've got governors like Ron DeSantis all across the country. We've got most legislatures are controlled by Republicans. The idea that all these Republican legislatures and all these Republican governors and all these Republican sheriffs and all these Republican county commissions, the overwhelming majority of counties in this country are like rock solid red, right? Full-blown Republican, conservative. I mean, these are farming communities. The idea that all these state and local governments are just going to bow down to our new overlords is preposterous. It's not going to happen. It's going to make the resistance that we saw under Obama look like child's play. And what are they going to do? Send in the army to crush the states nullifying their schemes? I submit to you that the army probably wouldn't obey, right? Yeah, Obama cleared out a lot of the good generals, but there's still a lot of wonderful patriotic people in the U.S. military. The idea that they're going to come disarm and terrorize and murder their fellow Americans, I think is far-fetched. So, these people, these deep state globalists, they like to project this aura of invincibility, but they are human. They are fallible and they are evil, and I think they're going to get their reward probably before the next life. We'll see.
Yeah, it was a great pep speech, man. I'm ready to run out on the field again. But however, the one thing you did that scared the bejesus out of me is to suggest that somehow the Republican Party is going to be responsible for this. That's like send in the clowns business, right? I mean, you tell me the Mitt Romneys of the world, and some of these just rhino Republicans, they're as big a problem as the progressive left is. Let's say all of those people in America who love the Constitution, who love faith and liberty, who for lack of any other option right now may identify for the moment as Republicans, that's where it's going to come from. I think before it's over, we're going to have to reject the Republican Party and all of its fecklessness with the extremity we are willing to reject the progressive left too. That day is coming. But you're right. Your point is made. There is a huge, healthy body of people in this country, again, who have no better real option right now than to go with a kind of broken and humiliated Republican Party, a do-nothing Republican Party in many instances, a Republican Party that in many instances prefers Joe Biden over Donald Trump. There are a number of outlets where that is true. So just take Fox News, right? What Fox News has become in the short span of about 6 months. So I think you're right. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen in a grassroots way. That was Trump's appeal to the grassroots, to the people who understand what's happening, who understand what shouldn't be happening based on our constitutional values, and those are the people who are going to stand up.
You're absolutely right, Duke, and I'm really glad you pointed that out about the Republican Party. The Republican Party, unfortunately, we've known for years, is hopelessly compromised. There are a lot of good things happening within the party, but only because there's no other vehicle, right? And I think Trump has really had a positive impact on the Republican Party overall. People like the rhinos are really now pariahs within the party. I mean, you ask your average grassroots Republican anywhere in this country, especially in Utah, what they think about Romney, and you'll get a gag reflex. People are not fond of that, and these types of Republicans, they're being primaried. They're losing their race. Jeff Flake is a good example, right? I would talk about a Flake. This guy down in Arizona, he decided he would go to war with President Trump. Smeared the JBS with a bunch of propaganda in his phony book. And what happened? I mean, just absolutely demolished. As President Trump pointed out, his poll numbers were so low, he knew he was going to lose in the primary. He didn't stand a chance in the general election. So there are still a lot of good Americans. There are still a lot of wonderful grassroots individuals who are willing to stand for freedom. Right now, they're working through the Republican Party. With or without the Republican Party, these people aren't going away. I think Trump won the election in a landslide. That gives us, 80 million people, some of whom will be more than happy to, quote, go to war, maybe not literally, but go to war for the president. So, things look bad, but they're not as bad as they seem.
And don't forget those alternate news networks. Fox has let us down. We've lost cable TV, but you got the Epoch Times, you've got One News America, you've got the John Birch Society, you got the New American. People are switching in droves, leaving Fox and joining these. Get in touch with, while you still can, the free, liberty-minded media. Alex, thanks for your time today.
Thank you, Duke.